is Tom Lee. Thank you for being here, Tom Lee. I don't even know if you need an introduction at this point. People tune in to hear. Sometimes it's almost like a salve, and I think you're going to give us a little bit of that today for our wounds from yesterday, but not entirely, because you think the S&P is probably going to be flat for August overall.
Yes, that's right.
And that's unlike some of your recent calls about the S&P with friendlier inflation data. You've made some calls about some big near-term moves. That's not what you're saying today, unless you're talking about small caps.
Yes, that's right. I think part of what we saw yesterday was, the rotation that's painful away from large caps. And I think Tesla earnings and Google sort of accelerated some of that. And I think there's been some uncertainty about the Fed's commitment to cutting, even though we expect inflation to fall like a rock. But when the Fed starts cutting, that's good for small caps. And there has been, I think, overseas some unwind of that Japan carry trade that's hurt the NASDAQ. But to me, this is why the S&P had a great first 6 months. Maybe it needs to consolidate those gains. But now Russell 2000 has an 11 median PE, earnings growth 800 basis points faster. And, it just posted 11 days where 10 out of 11 days had a 1% move. The 9 times it did that since 1979, when you weren't in a bear market, we were up 100%, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months later. 12-month average gain 40%.
You're very popular, and I would warn you this is not good that you're saying this. You think this rotation has been driven by expectations of a Trump White House? Is there another way you can say that? Can you come up with something else so you don't have to delve into the political side? You think Trump's going to win the White House, or you think the market at this point thinks he's going to win the White House?
Yes, it's the second. Betting markets are putting a 65% probability of a Trump White House. The biggest beneficiary, which is deregulation, M&A, regional banks doing better, that's small cap stocks.
Okay, so that's the linkage that you're seeing there. So you really think we've seen a Trump trade, and even after, the betting markets have moved somewhat. He's come down. Vice President Kamala Harris has moved up a little in the betting market since the weekend when the news came out. You still think that that's at play from here on, not just to explain the rotation that we've already seen? You think it's going to continue? That's
right. So I think it's from this point forward, there's a lot of opportunity in small caps. Part of it is that there's a lot of overlap. When the Fed cuts, that's lowering cost of money. That's good for small caps and the regional banks. It probably boosts CEO confidence, which is M&A, and that benefits small caps. So there's a lot of overlap between a Fed cut imminent and a Trump White House, and that's why I think the interplay is positive for small caps.
Interesting. So
I still don't understand. You don't think the large caps are done. You just think it's a slowdown for the S&P 500 on a broader level?
Yes, that's right. I think the Mag 7 was very attractive at the start of this year because growth was scarce and they've had great visibility, and they're not expensive. 27 times earnings isn't demanding. But now that there's a visible catalyst for small caps, I think investors are taking some profits up. NASDAQ was up 20% and putting it into small caps.
We were talking earlier, though, just about the Mag 7 in particular and the spending on the cloud. If Alphabet's results are indicative of what we might hear from Microsoft and Amazon next week when it comes to the cloud, where they are spending a lot more than they're able to bring in at this point, is that a problem? Is that... Because it feels like there's a little bit of a sentiment shift too.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's a brief one and early on.
I agree. I think perception is really important for equity valuations, but the money spent by these companies on AI has a high expected return because they have moats that are getting stronger, and there aren't companies like this anywhere else in the world, so they're very scarce. So I don't think it's wasted capital, but if investors want free cash flow, or if they see 11 PE stocks and small caps, that's what's becoming incrementally attractive.
So a flat S&P, but a Russell or a small cap gain of 15% in the month.
Yes,
possibly.
That's right. I think for the month of August, small caps can do something more than 15% even because they've underperformed so dramatically. And the type of move we've seen just in the last 2 weeks is something that only happens at the start of a pretty significant advance for small caps.
Do you think that the earnings that we see for the big caps, will they continue to confirm your case that maybe, could anyone blow their results out of the water and change this for big caps and say, wow, we're wrong, things are still okay, so that it doesn't, because yesterday was 600, whatever it was, 600 plus points. That had a lot to do with earnings, not completely, it seemed like it was ready to happen anyway, but do you think there could be any surprises that are better than people thought in that group?
I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think these companies are not capable of positive surprise. A lot of good news was baked in. You know, the line in the sand ultimately will be NVIDIA when they report, which is really the last one to report. You know, I think over the next 10 years, the outlook is still really good for all these companies. So I don't think investors should lose faith, but profit taking kind of makes sense.
That's okay, great. I think we can continue to have you back on because you've been so good on the markets that even that other stuff. Maybe you'll still be able to. I'm gonna make sure that happens.
Thank you.
You're welcome.